February is Black History Month, and one of the civil rights leaders commemorated this month is, of course, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Well, the University of St. Francis is putting on a show that takes place the night before his assassination. I'm joined now by the show's actors, Ennis Brown Jr. and Fatima Washington, and the director, Brad Beauchamp. Good morning to you all. Thank you so much for coming in.
Good morning.
For having us. All right, Brad, well, first of all, this is a fictional depiction of what happens that night, but give us a little more background of the Mountaintop.
The Mountaintop, it's based on his last speech there the night before. He talked about going to the mountaintop, and you know, he's seen. And Katori Hall has written a very powerful and imaginative piece about, after that speech, going back to the Lorraine Motel and writing a play that really portrays Martin Luther King as a man, and not this iconic figure that we all know him from his great speeches and all the YouTube clips and the small snippets that we see.
Sure. But
she really wrote him as a man, you know, a father, you know, a son, a preacher, a friend. I mean, he really didn't start out to be this civil rights leader.
Right.
He
as a person.
He was a man. He was a preacher.
Right.
He just wanted to be a guy, a preacher, you know, in his parish, his pastor, his church. So.
Ennis and Fatima, you are the only two actors in this production. Talk about what it's like working together. I'm just seeing you look very comfortable with each other.
But no, it's wonderful working with Fatima. Just by being two people was scary for me because I haven't been in a show with that less than a few of cast members,
Really?
and
Okay.
I was kind of worried about, like, oh my gosh, am I going to get along with this person or whoever it was during the audition process? But then once I found out it was Fatima, I was like, okay, I know she's an entertainer. It might go well. But then when I met her on stage, I was like, oh no. But no, she's wonderful, and the chemistry has built to be something that's just phenomenal. And I couldn't ask for no one else.
And Ennis, you are playing Dr. King, and Fatima, you're playing a young hotel maid who forces King to face his doubts and fear. How do you go about playing that role? Is she a real character? Because it's fictional, right?
Right. You know, I've kind of borrowed from some different people. I work in a helping profession, so I think being able to guide someone through something is kind of what she does. And so I took some of that. And, you know, we had several conversations in the beginning of working on the play about Dr. King and what his mindset was and what was going on at that time. And using that to say, how would I help someone in any kind of way who's going through that, who is that iconic, who kind of has to live this dual life where he's one thing in the public, but then, like Brad said, he's a man, he's a human being, and he has feelings and a family and all of that going on. And how do I work with him after he's just given this big speech?
So,
Yes.
Dr. King, see, such a good actor. Talk a little bit about how you played such an iconic role. Talk about how your preparation. Were you nervous at all?
I'm still nervous, and I'm going to be nervous until the 22nd. Taking on this role, it was an honor in itself, but when you look at Dr. King, you look at him as, like Brad said, from those snippets you've seen on YouTube or what you've learned in your history books in school. But this play goes deeper than that. It shows you the man behind the legend, the myth, and it humanizes him. And I tried to research Dr. King. You can do that all you want, but this is the King behind closed doors. So to make Dr. King relatable was the hardest part, but even within that, he was a great orator. Trying to get the Dr. King, the speaker, Dr. King, the pastor, and Dr. King, the man, those three different aspects of him was kind of hard. So It took a lot of preparation, a lot of research, a lot of study, and I'm still in that process right now.
Really interesting. I was reading about it. Very different, just interesting plot when you think about what could have happened, and it's not the actual night. And yeah, I love that concept.
Right. It's interesting. I mean, he's been gone longer than he lived, and you brought up an interesting point. There's really not any video of him walking because you were trying to find his gait. You have his tempo, his rhythm in speaking, but his gait, his walk. There's pictures, lots of pictures of him at podiums, and still shots of him in a line, but never walking. So it was very interesting, you've done your work, and
And I still haven't found a picture of him walking or anything. I'm like, how does he walk?
Well, I know it's going to be a great show. We thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And if you're interested in seeing the Mountaintop, the opening show is Thursday, February 19th at 8 o'clock in the St. Francis North Campus Auditorium. Shows on Friday and Saturday are also at 8 o'clock, and the Sunday show is at 2 o'clock. You can get those tickets at the door or by calling the number on your screen. Stay tuned for more news and weather after the break.